Hello, Scrufftards! I'm Scruffy, this is the War Zone, and welcome to Scruffy Tales. And we're gonna take a look at the Kharkiv front line down in Ukraine and the battles to come, doing pretty pure, clean-cut armchair general keyboard warrior video. Because why not? Do I know what I'm talking about? Absolutely not. But that won't stop me. And we are gonna kick it off with the road to Lyptsi. And here we go. Yes, the Russians, they have, as we all know, pushed into Ukraine in the north of Kharkiv. And they have made some gains against Ukrainian border forces. Not unsuspected. I mean, it's not like Ukraine has barbed wire and minefields directly on the border. Uh, So I guess this was to be expected once the new invasion started up in the north. And we are seeing that the Russians are pushing in towards Lyboke and made some attempts to get Selene and made some headway here in the center as well. And what we're having is they're pushing in straight north of Kharkiv. And in this region, we have a big hill here. We have a huge ridgeline, low territory, low ground with a river, big lake, and some forests and stuff like that, and with smaller towns. And what the Russians more than likely are trying to do is push down to the town of Lyptsi. And switching from deep state to ISW, we can see that ISW has some more gains for the Russians, pushed up to this small village here, forgot the name of it. And here you can see the river, the forests. This is a big ridge line, and this is more flat ground down here in the valley. And what the Russians are trying to do, well, they're trying to reach Lyptsi right here. And what I suspect that they will be doing is try and avoid the wide open fields. They're still going to be fighting here, windbreak to windbreak. But I mean, they will more than likely try and push into the valley here. This is a pretty deep valley with some forests, and then move from one forested area to the other until they can get down this end of the hill. And over here on this slope, down the slope down towards the lake, we have some suburbs to Lyptsi, and it's not that far from this village, so Russia will probably push along here the slopes between the hill and the lake and grab the suburbs as they push towards the town as well. And so that is probably what's going to be happening as they're pushing south. Big pushes here, another big push here, and then as the Ukrainians potentially are falling back, Russia can grab territory up on the hill itself. Yes, Lyuboke was the name of that town that ISW says Russia has taken control over. And here you can see I've angled a bit so we can now see the hill I was talking about, the slopes with the forested areas, and the slopes with the suburbs and the lake down below. And so, I mean, yes, if Russia gains the high ground, I'm not sure how useful it's going to be. It's not that much cover. They probably want to have artillery and mortar positions over here anyway, so this will not be where they will set up artillery. Tanks may be in this tree line, but still, I mean, if you have tanks up here, they're going to be easy target for drones. So not sure how much they will rely on this hill for overwatch positions. It's still area denial and removing Ukraine any chance of relying on the hill, so they will still grab it. But the important battles will be here on the slopes where you have forests and on these slopes where you have suburbs. And so here we have the forested areas, as you can see here on the eastern side of the hill, Olienikove, and then you have the highway going across the high ground, the ridge line here. And so we have the Russians right on the edge here of this forest. So you can see there's kind of it's open territory, open ground, so maybe the Russians will be pushing in this way to gain access to this valley here. As you can see, it's kind of deep, or they'll do it proper Russian fashion, bum rush across the fields and see what happens. But yeah, you can see each forested area is a valley. Top of each hill you have farmland, and the farmers have ignored the valleys because they can't farm in the valleys along the steep slopes, so that's where you have forests. This provides a lot of cover for infantry, and this is where Ukraine can mount good defenses, and this is also where Russia can commit effective assaults. They don't have to move around on the open ground. They can find cover, they can maneuver, apply pressure, and rely on numerical superiority to pressure and outflank Ukrainian positions. So this is where we will see the main fighting over the next couple of days and weeks. And yeah, so here we have the hill I was talking about, Lyptsi down here. So we're down here looking north, the suburbs on the western slopes, the forests on the eastern slopes. And I mean, as you can see, there's not much cover up on the actual hill. The main battles will be over here and over here. And as Russia progresses, if they manage to progress, they will be able to cut into the various windbreaks and slowly gain control of the high ground as they advance on the flanks. Would be my guess. I mean, it seems reasonable, doesn't it? They may try some YOLO moves down this main highway, but probably get hit by drones and anti-tank guided missiles and what have you, artillery. But will they rely on the hill for overwatch position and fire into the town? Maybe. They may move up, fire a couple of rounds, and then get the fuck out of Dodge. That may happen if there's a building down here that the Russians eventually want to obliterate. Drive up with a tank, open fire 1 or 2 times at the said building, and then get the fuck out of Dodge and get back to friendly lines to avoid incoming drones and what have you. That may be the case. But it's not like they're gonna have fortified positions up on the hill firing constantly into the valley, into the town. That's not how high ground works, and that is not how high ground works when you have drones. So important, yes, but not in the way it used to be up until the start of this war, when drone warfare entered the picture on a definite scale. And why did we return to this image? Predict Russian movements, probably. So this deep valley, we have a small farm. The low ground with this is flat, low ground. As you can see, wide open. If you can move at speed, sure you can gain ground, but you're also going to be easily spotted and counted by drones. So Russia will more than likely initially try and grab this valley, either by coming it down this way and move up, or try and get across here. This territory is Russian, but I mean, it's open farmland. What is it that they're holding here that makes this Russian? This windbreak? Sure, this could be Russian territory, absolutely. Oh, boom. Town as well, but what is it that makes this field in Russian control? Makes no sense. Maybe, so maybe what Russia can do is rush from the town to the tree line here, or from the windbreak to grab, to enter the trees here. I think more than likely they will try and come down this way and gain access to this valley before they can then move on to the other forested areas. And here you can see the valley. Here we go. Here you can see the valley again, flat, easy targets for the Ukrainians. The Russians, they want to get into this valley, find cover, make use of the farms. They're probably going to get bombed to hell and back by Ukrainian artillery. But I mean, there's cover. Russia can get troops in, they can get supplies in, stockpile, and then get ready for this push into this woodlands here, maybe cut up this way. And I mean, it's not that far, 300 meters. That is almost running distance if you're motivated. So yeah, Russia, they want this valley, and then it's time to grab this patch of woodlands before they can push into this big valley and this big forest. And where are we on the map? We're here, if it wasn't clear. So this is what I'm talking about, and that stretch there, that's the 300-meter marker. And as you can see, they want to get in here, and then they are on their way to the next forest, and then they can start pushing towards Lyptsi in earnest. And so yeah, this valley, super crucial for the Russians, and super crucial for the Ukrainians. If Ukraine can hold this valley, they will essentially hold the line in this part of the front line. Russia will not be able to make any moves past this point if they hold the valley. Could they grab this windbreak, this tree belt here? Yes, potentially, but Russia won't be able to threaten these patches of woodlands from this stretch of forest here. Russia needs this valley in order to begin advancing along the hill and along the edge of this valley. So this is where Ukraine needs to mount a proper defense, and we will see if they succeed or not. And moving on to the western slopes of the hill, here we have Hlyboke, and this is Hlyboke. And according to ISW, the Russians have gained a foothold in the town. Yellow is claimed territory held by Russian sources. So Russian sources claim to have the entire town, and ISW has confirmed that they have parts of the town. And here we have the suburbs to Lyptsi, on the edge of this big lake, following the slopes from the crest of the hill down to the beaches, shoreline. And this is where Russia will more than likely try and push in, head south, and reach Lyptsi to avoid the open areas here. I mean, why would they want to fight one windbreak at a time, crossing wide open fields where they are easy targets when they can? Yes, it's a tough fight. It's urban warfare. Urban warfare is super tough. But if they get in, then it's going to be tough to get them out, right? So if they can push in some more, then it's going to be even harder for Ukraine to push Russia out. So Russia just needs a foothold, and then it's going to be really difficult for Ukraine to push them out. And that gives Russia options to slowly but surely push further into this suburban area. And if they manage to push further south, they are right on the outskirts of Lyptsi. So, in order for Russia to succeed, we have a couple of crucial points. And this would be one of, I don't know what that is. That a graveyard maybe? Or a farm? Not sure. But this tree line here will allow Russia access to the suburbs. This tree line and this whatever, along with this small stream, also gives Russia access to the suburbs. So this point here and this tree line here is what Russia will be going for. Once they have the town here, they will be pushing along this way to gain access here. They will be pushing down here to gain access here. Maybe if they can gain access to this windbreak, not sure if they will, but I can guarantee you that this here, right here, will be one hell of a fight as Russia is trying to push in. And the same thing goes for this narrow stretch of forest in this small stream or whatever it is that the trees are following. So this is where Ukraine will have to do their damnedest to hold the line to prevent Russia from getting in. Because if Russia gets into one or two or three buildings, I mean, in order to push them out, Ukraine needs to put in a lot of effort, like a 5-to-1 advantage, 10-to-1 advantage, just to push the Russians out of this small area that they may begin to gain a foothold from in. And then, I mean, it's, yeah. So it's better to keep the Russians out of the suburban area and defeat them in this territory here and in this territory here. Because if the Russians get in, it's gonna be one hell of a fight to try and push them out again. So, yeah, there we go. Here we have Lyptsi. You can see it crawls up a bit on the slopes of this big hill. And Russia's best bet of getting access to Lyptsi is not crossing the wide open fields of the hill. It is by coming in from the east along the forests on these slopes and pushing into these suburban areas over here on the western slopes. So pushing down this way and pushing down this way. And catch Lyptsi, or the northern end of Lyptsi, in a sort of pincer move, I guess. And yeah, so this is what I'm thinking is going to happen. Russia's going to push in here, and then this, they will continue fighting on these slopes here on the outskirts of Lyptsi itself. Another image. What was my point with this image? Anyway, so yeah, I guess it highlights Russia will probably coming this way to start us. Ha ha ha! Drawing arrows on a map, and we all know what that means. YouTubers drawing arrows on a map trying to detail military movement. They are douchebags and assholes who don't know what they're talking about, and that includes me. And they're probably gonna try and get here to push this way, right? And this is not gonna happen in a day or two, hopefully. This will probably take a couple of days, a couple of weeks. And from here, Russia will try and continue towards Lyptsi, and the same thing goes over here. Push in, like I said, that way and this way to gain access to the town, and then push down south. Hard fighting. I mean, this region will be obliterated by artillery. Initially, the Russians will just wipe out the buildings, and as Russia pushes in, Ukraine will wipe out whatever's left. So this area will not be a pretty sight, would be my guess, in a week or two from now. But like I said before, if Ukraine can hold here, the Russian push will hopefully come to a halt, and if they can hold here, and of course over here, the same thing will probably be true on the western end of this big hill. So with a little bit of luck, Ukraine may actually pull this off. And now we're gonna head on over to Vovchansk. And here we go. Here we have Vovchansk, Russian border. The Russians have pushed in most definitely over here, and all the yellow is claimed Russian advances that have not yet been fully confirmed, I believe. But it doesn't look good for the Ukrainians. Just taking a look at this image from ISW. The Russians have pushed down this way. You have a bridge over here that they more than likely are after. They're pushing in here over high ground. These are mountainous forested areas. And they are now having the high ground right outside of these towns here. And there's a bridge here that they probably want. And there's also another bridge further down here. What the Russians have managed, if they have pushed this far, they have managed to cut off this supply line leading into Vovchansk. If they can get across the river here, they are in a position to push across the farmland to threaten this supply line. And if Russia can secure this bridge, well, they can push through the woods and some towns to cut this supply line. And effectively, at that point, Vovchansk is surrounded. So that is probably the Russian plan in the long run. I also have an arrow here because here you have a river, and it appears to be a ford where you can cross without relying on bridges. There are also some, it appears to be smaller bridges, but I suspect Ukraine will blow those up. But that ford, you can't blow up a ford. It's a crossing in the river, shallows that you can maybe drive across. So Russia may be able to try and cross the river here and gain access to the forest here in order to outflank Vovchansk, and in order to probably move down here and cut the supply lines. And so taking a look at this end of the front line, as you can see, if this is true, Russia has grabbed some high ground. They have some towns right on the edge of the river, and here is the bridge that Russia wants. But Ukraine has high ground here. This is a small valley between the city and the mountains. So if Russia wants to cross this river, cross the river, if the bridge is intact, they will come under fire from Ukrainians on high ground in buildings, and they can probably fire on the Russians as they're coming down the hill, as they're driving along the mountain, and most definitely I have a crappy headset. I bet you didn't know that. And especially when the Russians, if they get this far and try and YOLO Leroy Jenkins their way across the bridge, they will come under Ukrainian fire as well. So yes, the Russians have gained ground, important territory, but they still haven't control of the bridge. And the question is if Ukraine has not blown this bridge by now. And moving on, we have the other bridge over here, Vovchansk river and a bridge. And as you can see, Russia is up on the high ground, according to the Russians at least, all along here, the valley. The Russians are in control of the hills and the woods and can fire down into the valley on Ukrainian positions. On the positive note, Ukrainians are in control of this big mountain and can fire straight across and hit Russian positions that way. But this bridge is what Russia is after, and the question is if they will be able to grab it before Ukraine blows it up. So in order to get it, they need to push into these towns, and they need to suffer Ukrainian incoming fire from the hillside over here as they're pushing into the town, coming down the slopes. And then they need to push out to the bridge itself while taking fire from the mountain. And then they have to cross the valley and attack uphill to try and grab them out. This is going to be a shit show. Artillery is going to hit the hillside here. Russian artillery is going to hit the hillside here. And there's going to be horrible, horrific urban warfare combat, close quarters all over the place down here. This valley will be a valley of death if it isn't already a hellscape by now. And last but not least, remember I was talking about this part before where you had a potential crossing, a ford in the middle of the river, and that would be this part here, right here. And well, the Russians have apparently pushed up all the way to the river, as you may or may not expect. And so, from the ford, the potential ford, I mean, take a look at it. You have dirt roads leading all the way up to it. There's stuff on the other side. I mean, this must be, so you must be able to cross this with vehicles, right? At least amphibious vehicles. I mean, you take a BMP and you just rig it to drive across a river, and it should be able to do it. So, well, if they get across it, I mean, they're going to come under artillery fire, obviously, but then it's only 540 meters to the forest, and wide open farmland, sure, fields, but still, it does provide an opportunity for the Russians. I mean, bridges you can blow up. A ford, a natural crossing, you can't blow that shit up. It's there no matter how much artillery you throw at it. So this will probably be a natural point for the Russians to try and get across and then bum rush the tree line. And the other two potential crossings, they're located over here, but if those are bridges, you can see dirt roads kind of moving to 2 points where it does feel like there are bridges. But, I mean, Ukraine will more than likely have blown those to smithereens by now. So, what are Russian goals with all of this? That is pretty goddamn unclear at the moment. I mean, just taking a look at this Kharkiv front line, it does appear that Russia is trying to push in this way and this way to Lyptsi. Uh, I mean, this push must end at Vesele at least, right? And they're coming in hard over the mountains and forests to cut this road here. And I mean, that may take them all the way to link. I mean, I assume they want to link up all these forces. So these guys, they want to link up with these guys at Vasily, and these guys then want to link up here with these guys, right? That seems reasonable. And these guys want to link up with these guys over here. There's a bridge and, you know, towns and roads. And same thing goes here. And if they take Vovchansk, do they want to go further? I don't know. To what end? Gain territory, gain ground? Well, there's tons of villages, and they're gonna need tons of troops to take it. So do they want to strike deep into Ukrainian territory, or will they settle for just holding a buffer zone between the border and Ukraine to deny Russian rebels a chance to strike out of Ukraine and attack Russian soil? Or are they actually after Kharkiv? No, they're not after Kharkiv. There's no way in hell they're after Kharkiv, a city of 1 million. You can't grab that with 50,000 troops that Russia apparently has amassed on the northern front. So, truth be told, it's pretty unclear. Maybe they want to tie up resources, force Ukraine to allocate troops to this part of the front line, thereby weakening other sections of the front, like Kupiansk, for instance, potentially even weakening Kherson, preventing a crossing of the Dnipro. Who knows? But when it comes to sending in the troops they've sent in, it presents problems and, you know, makes me ask questions. Because if we take a look at the estimated Russian losses to conquer Avdiivka, we see that, according to Ukraine, Russia lost 17,000 troops dead and another 30,000 were injured. And that's like 47,000 people. So if we take a look at what Russia has gathered in total along the northern front, not just in Belgorod, but over in Kursk and other places as well, that is 50,000 troops and 400 tanks. I mean, take a look. Russia lost 364 tanks trying to take Avdiivka, 900 armored vehicles. And taking Avdiivka, Russia lost 748 armored fighting vehicles. And in Belgorod, the troops in Belgorod that now are aimed at Lyptsi and Vovchansk and are attacking, that is 30,000 troops out of those 50,000. Not sure how many vehicles have been deployed to Lyptsi and Vovchansk. Right? You begin to see the issue if the Ukrainian figures for Avdiivka are correct. But yes, sure, Ukraine will not be able to defend Vovchansk like they defended Avdiivka. They don't have the defenses, the troops, the equipment, and so on. So let's say that Russia can take Vovchansk in the end, but with only 10% of the casualties if compared to Avdiivka. That is still 1,700 dead and 3,000 wounded, 4,700 men, out of a force of 30,000 troops that, on top of it all, are split between Lyptsi and Vovchansk. Right? So say 15,000 are aimed at Vovchansk, and you're gonna lose a third of those guys just taking the first obstacle. I mean, how can you then realistically push on? So beyond taking Lyptsi and Vovchansk, Russia can, you know, theoretically achieve that, taking these two larger towns with the troops they have. But what can they achieve beyond that? They don't have the manpower to go beyond Vovchansk and Lyptsi unless something major happens and when Ukraine abandons these two major settlements. And remember that Russia failed to achieve anything of worth when they gathered 90,000 troops and 900 armored vehicles supported by 500 artillery pieces as they launched their attack towards the Kupiansk front line. The question is what Russia can hope to achieve over time with the Kharkiv front line. They can certainly gain territory short term against inexperienced and weaker Ukrainian forces. But they need far more than 50,000 troops if they want to have any real impact on the war. That's it. Not much else to add, at least at the moment. So I hope you found it interesting and that I will see you in the next one. And as always, go po marsh, Ukraine. And god damn it, give them hell.